You're a high achiever and you've been successful in so many areas of life. But what if one of the things that has made you successful in other areas of life is the very thing that is making your binge eating worse? I'm Dr. Lara Zibarras and I'm a psychologist and binge eating recovery coach. And what I've seen in my practice and so many of the women that I've worked with is that more control around your eating can actually make your binge eating worse. So the same discipline that works in the workplace for your career actually backfires when it comes to food. And in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why that is. Control does work in your career, in the workplace, but it is very different when it comes to food. You see, often achievement in the workplace is about creating rigid structures and rules and sticking to those. It's about being disciplined and saying that you're going to do something and doing it by a certain day. So you often have very clear metrics and those rules that drive performance in the workplace. And in most career settings, the more effort you put in, the better things are, right? You end up with that promotion or you end up winning that job or winning a pitch. But when it comes to food, things are very different. When we have very tight control around what we're eating, often what we do is we try and eat perfectly. We try and eat the perfect meal. We try to put the rules in place, so I can eat this, but I can't eat that. But what happens is that your body actually pushes back against this restriction. When it comes to food, our bodies don't really like to have such structure or rigid rules. And so often we have this mentality that when we break those rules, we think, oh, sod it, I've broken the rule, I've had a biscuit, I may as well eat a whole lot now. The thing is that high achievers often double down. When they then break that rule, they think, I'm going to try harder this time. So tomorrow I'm going to be more strict with myself. I'm going to be more controlled. I'm not going to allow myself to eat any cookies because when I had that one, I was totally out of control. So that's what we do. We double down on the rules rather than soften them. And it makes sense because that control, it makes us feel that level of certainty. And sometimes there's a hidden fear that if you let go of those rules a little bit or soften them, you're going to let yourself go completely. Now, quick side note here, I have a free training. It is a training on how to end binges and eating chaos. So it's a 3-step plan to help you get your act together around food. I've put the link in the description, so feel free to check it out. And in this, I go into a lot more detail really about how when you have very rigid control around food, it actually makes you feel more out of control. So going back to this idea of control, having really rigid control around food can actually fuel binging. When we restrict food, so we have that mental restriction around food, it actually increases preoccupation. We end up thinking about food even more. So I don't know if food noise resonates with you, but so many people I work with, they talk about this kind of constant obsession around food, like constantly thinking about, what should I eat today? Am I allowed to eat this? Am I allowed to eat that? Should I have such and such for lunch? And so on. So you have this kind of constant mental chatter around food. Now, the thing is, the more we tell ourselves that we shouldn't think about this food or we shouldn't have this food, the more it kind of dominates our mind, our kind of mental space. And that scarcity thinking actually amplifies how much we end up thinking about food, because when we tell ourselves we can't have something, it actually creates a little bit more obsession around that specific food that we've told ourselves we can't have. Now, the other thing, especially with high achievers, so especially if you've been really successful in your career or your job, you would probably maybe classify yourself as a perfectionist. So you're used to doing things to a very high standard. And we bring that kind of high standard into our relationship with food. So if we ever have like one deviation from that perfection, it feels like total failure. So if we told ourselves, this is the rules, and then we have a little slip up, that feels very extreme, like I've totally failed, what an idiot, I can't believe I've done that. So it exacerbates this, oh well, I've blown it thinking. So that is related to that all or nothing thinking, where you're either being perfect, or if you have this little slip up, you think, what's the point now? I may as well just eat the whole packet or eat the whole tub or whatever it is that you're eating. So that little small slip up can become a full-blown binge in that scenario. So I want to share a story of one of my clients, Maya, and she had spent a lot of years actually eating what she considered a very healthy diet, and she was quite a perfectionist, real high achiever in her work, and she had lots of rigid rules around food. And she came to me to ask why she couldn't stick to her regime. She couldn't understand why she had this ostensibly very healthy diet and was eating very well, and she couldn't understand why she kept on having these blowout binges, especially on the weekends or on special occasions, like if she went to a wedding or a friend's birthday party. In working together, what we realised is that she was so tightly controlled around food during the week that on the weekend it was almost like this backlash. She just went completely wild. She'd kind of given herself permission to go completely wild because it was almost like a cheat day, and she would start again on Monday. But over time, those days became more and more out of control to the point where, well, she came to work with me. What helped for her was relaxing the rules during the week, because when the rules were more relaxed, there was less control, less tight control around food. She was finding that she didn't need to have this huge blowout binge on the weekends or on special occasions, because on a Tuesday maybe she'd have a bar of chocolate, or on a Wednesday she'd have a cookie. So she was allowing herself, what we called it was a sprinkle of fun throughout the week, so that the weekends didn't feel so intense. It completely changed her relationship with food, and now she is no longer binging, which is just wonderful. The final thing I wanted to talk about, what can actually reduce binging in the same way that helped for Maya, without you feeling totally out of control. Because I think that is the one thing that people worry about, is that if they start relaxing their food rules, that they're just going to go in the other direction and just go completely wild around food. Now, one thing that I always really recommend with my clients is to have structured flexibility rather than totally rigid control. So actually, a structured approach to eating can really help with overcoming the urge to binge, but with a lot of flexibility built into that. So it's about eating consistently without restriction, but in a flexible way. And again, this is something that I say to my clients. We want to have an approach to eating that you can do whenever. So whether you're on holiday or whether you're going through a stressful period at work, thinking about what can you stick to for the long term is really important. So if you've told yourself that you've got these really strict rules and you're never allowed to have a biscuit, that's not going to be something that you can stick to for life. But if you have a structured approach to eating with inbuilt flexibility, then that can be a much better solution for finding an approach to eating. And it still can be an approach to eating that focuses on your health, but that is sustainable for the long term. So for a lot of clients who are very controlled with their eating, it's about loosening a little bit or relaxing a little bit the control. Another thing to work on is working on kind of trust. And that might sound a little bit strange, but if you are very controlled with your eating, maybe you're skipping meals, maybe you're doing something like intermittent fasting, your body doesn't trust that it's going to get fed. So a lot of the work that I do is about building trust between you and your body. It's about learning to tune into and recognize your hunger and fullness cues. So a lot of the work that we do is helping you regulate your appetite so that when you're hungry, you're able to address that hunger, but also crucially that you understand when you're full and how to stop eating when you're full. And you build that trust with your body by eating in a structured and regular way. So with my clients, a lot of the work that we do is learning how to eat every 3 to 4 hours in a structured way so that your body actually trusts that you're going to feed her. And then another thing that may be worth thinking about is that in a lot of the cases where I've worked with clients, that control around food actually is making you feel safe. So I would question, is there another way that is going to make you feel safe? So often this comes from nervous system regulation tools or coping mechanisms where you can cope with maybe the stress of your work or the stress of your day-to-day by using different coping mechanisms that isn't about controlling food, because that control can make us feel safe. But then if we kind of break the rules, then we're feeling out of control. So it has kind of a negative cycle going on. So if we can use something else, another coping mechanism to help us feel safe and, cope with life's ups and downs and cope with the stress of work, then that can be a really good strategy for, rather than controlling food, helping you cope with your day-to-day. So I hope you found that helpful, but just to reiterate, often over-controlling your food can lead to feeling out of control. So I would really encourage you to reflect on where is control showing up in your relationship with food. Is it about rigid rules? Is it about perfectionism, or have you got some of that all or nothing thinking going on? And like I said earlier, if you want to find out a little bit more about this, I highly recommend watching my free training. It's a 3-step plan to help you get your act together around food, and that will really help you understand in a bit more detail where control might be showing up and how it makes you feel more out of control around food. The details are in the description below. And I highly recommend watching this next video. It's all about why you can't stop eating at night. So do check it out. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.